Winter in the medieval world was not just a season. It was a test of endurance, a battle against the elements where survival was never guaranteed. While fairy tales paint images of grand feasts and warm hearths, for the common peasant, winter was a relentless force of nature, a brutal, unyielding enemy. Chapter 1. The cold embrace of winter. We complain when the thermostat dips below 65 degrees, but for medieval peasants, winter temperatures could plummet to 0 degrees Fahrenheit, or lower in northern Europe. There were no heated blankets, no central heating, just the raw, bitter cold. Each morning they awoke in homes colder than the grave. The lucky ones had a fire still smoldering from the night before. The unlucky ones, well, their homes felt more like tombs. Chapter 2. Beds of straw and unwanted guests. Forget the plush mattresses of today. Medieval beds were makeshift piles of straw and hay, often crawling with more than just warmth. Peasants collected hay in the summer, layering it thickly to stay off the frozen ground. It worked, most of the time. But it also made for an interesting wake-up call. One medieval account tells of a peasant finding a hen had laid an egg in his bed overnight. Talk about breakfast in bed. Chapter 3. The Woolen Shield. If there was one thing that stood between a peasant and frostbite, it was wool. Wool was more than just fabric, it was survival. Peasants wrapped themselves in layer upon layer of wool. A single family might own 20 pounds of it, woven into tunics, cloaks, and even crude mittens. But there was a cost. Medieval wool still carried lanolin, the natural oil of sheep, good for waterproofing, bad for smell. One noble who spent the night in a peasant's home later wrote that he smelled like a barn for a week. Chapter 4. The fire that gave and took away. The hearth was the heart of the home. It provided warmth, light, and the only means of cooking. But it came at a deadly cost. Cut 2. A coughing child, her eyes watering. Smoke lingers in the air. Without proper chimneys, homes filled with thick smoke. The very thing keeping them warm was also poisoning them, one breath at a time. Losing a fire meant an agonizing trek to a neighbor's home for a fresh ember, sometimes miles away. And if no ember was found, it meant a night of unimaginable cold. Chapter 5. The meal that never ended. Dinner was not a luxury, it was whatever could be scavenged, stored, or preserved. Peasants relied on root vegetables, turnips, parsnips, and neeps, boiled into a never-ending stew. Meat, when available, was a rare blessing. More often, they added tree bark for fiber, pebbles for minerals, and leather scraps for protein. One desperate family even attempted to cook their wooden spoon, believing it would add flavor. Desperate times indeed. Chapter 6. Animals as housemates. The winter house was not just for people. It was also home to chickens, pigs, sheep, even cows. Cows generated heat equivalent to a small fireplace. Pigs, walking space heaters. Chickens, feathered foot warmers. It wasn't pretty, but it was practical. Of course, this arrangement had its drawbacks. One merchant described staying with a peasant family and being convinced the rooster had a personal vendetta against him, crowing in his ear all night long. Chapter 7. The House as a Fortress. To survive winter, peasants built their homes half underground. This medieval insulation trick kept temperatures stable, making the bitter cold slightly more bearable. They stuffed every crack with a mix of straw, mud, and animal dung. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. Some even grew grass on their roofs, not for decoration, but to help hold the structure together. The triumph of resilience. Despite the odds, medieval peasants endured. They adapted, they survived. They huddled together, told stories by the fire, and welcomed each sunrise as a small victory against the cold. Their story is not just one of suffering, but of resilience. A testament to the human spirit's ability to endure even the harshest winters. And so, we remember them, the ones who walked before us, the ones who faced the frost and lived to see another spring. And just like a good cup of coffee, I hope this video gave you something rich to take away. If you enjoyed this brew of content, go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps keep the vibes going. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another fresh drop. Trust me, you don't want to. Let me know in the comments what's your go-to coffee order, or just drop an emoji so I know you made it to the end. Thanks for watching Black Coffee Stories. Stay grounded, stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next one.